Hello everybody and welcome to Project Trade. This is the Trading Highlight Show, all the best bits from our testing of trading strategies. Today we're on a technical indicator based strategy, and in this one we are going to find out what exactly does happen when trend meets momentum, the sails and the engine working in tandem with one another. Two indicators is all we'll need. Firstly, the 60 period exponential moving average, and secondly, the much beloved moving average convergence divergence, aka the MACD. If you do want to dive deep into either of these indicators, we have made videos on both of them, which I'll link in the description. Just a little overview of each though. The EMA, it appears like this on your price chart, and with ours we're taking a price average of over 60 periods. That exponential part means that it gives greater weighting to the more recent price data and therefore less weighting to that old data. The MACD is a histogram which bases itself around two plotted lines. The blue MACD line, which is a 26 period exponential average subtracted from a 12 period exponential average, and the yellow signal line, which is a 9 period exponential moving average of the MACD line. The histogram simply measures the difference between the MACD line and the signal line. So how will these indicators dictate our entry criteria? With that 60 period EMA, if the price is closed above it, then we're only going to take buy trades, and if price is closed below it, then we're only going to take sell trades. So it's just acting as a bit of a basic filter to start us out. That means our prime entry signal will be coming from the MACD, and we are doing the zero line crossover, which means when that histogram closes above zero for the first histogram bar, that is when we will enter a buy trade, and when it does the same below zero, that's when we'll enter our sell trade. Here's a few example entry options for us on this price chart. So where price is above the EMA, we've got ourselves into a couple buy trades there, and then when it's dipped below on the right hand side, we've taken a sell trade from that MACD crossover. And we will still give price to the third candle to catch up to the EMA for us to still be able to enter that trade. I'll explain that here on the same price chart we saw before. If you look at that histogram crossover there by the yellow arrow where it's moving above zero, because the price is still closed below the 60 EMA, at that point we cannot yet enter the buy trade. And then by the close of the third histogram bar, it's still not closed above zero. So at that point we are locked out of the trade entirely. We can see where price finally does close above the EMA, and it's 7 candles in total after the histogram initially crossed zero. That one would therefore be a miss, but if you look at this one here for example, it just makes it across by the close of that third candle, so we would be able to enter our buy trade there. I've just marked the histogram bars as 1, 2 and 3 to try and make it a bit clearer, so hopefully that's understood. Let's move forward to how we can make sure that we don't lose too much money through poor risk management, and we'll be using an incredibly popular tool to help us out with this. It's the average true range. Our video on the ATR will be linked in the description if you want to check it out, but this is what it looks like. It's a single line oscillator, and we'll be using the default 14 period input. What the ATR is trying to figure out is the average price range of the recent candles from top to bottom. How much has price moved in a given period? Because you can then use that range as the distance from your entry price to your take profit or your stop loss. Top left, that's the figure we'll be noting when we enter the trade and what our risk is going to be based off. We are leaving out splits of our trades, leaving out scaling. We are going all in on ratio. It's going to be 1.5 times ATR take profit value with a 1 times ATR stop loss. This is all just a 2% risk of our capital on each trade, so we're never going to be melting down from losses. And a final trick up our sleeve with money management is that if either indicator reverses against us, we will close the trade. So if we're in a buy trade, for example, and either the MACD closes below a value of zero or price closes below the 60 period EMA, our trade is over. It's important for us in this strategy to maintain the signals that got us into the trade to begin with. Just the final notes, we'll be trading the strategy on a daily time frame. A lot of folks do see this as the most consistent time frame, so we'll see how we get on with it. And we're going to be looking for opportunities on all of the Forex minor pairs. Just trading 1 or 2 currency pairs, it might take us a while to even get a proper signal to enter a trade. So I think it's important to give ourselves a spread of charts to be able to look at. We're leaving aside the dollar, but we'll have plenty of other currency pairs to choose from, as we'll be looking at the pound, the euro, the Swissy, Aussie dollar, the Kiwi, the Canadian dollar and the yen. So hopefully there'll be plenty of signals out there for us. And we will of course be journaling every trade so we get a fair picture of qualitative and quantitative information to take home with us. Hopefully that will lead us to greener pastures when it comes to building our strategies. That is all we need for the total strategy, so let's get into the platform. Here we are then, it is just coming up to 25 past 11, right at the end of the day. That is PM we're talking. So we've got a full set of information from these indicators that we take at this point, just over 30 minutes before the end of the day. And it's the daily chart. Our MACD is here, our exponential moving average 60 period is here. As we're looking at all of those Forex minor pairs, we've got 21 currency pairs to look at. So I won't talk through every single one of them. We'll obviously look at the ones that have an actual entry for us, if there are any, and any that are just of interest anyway. So we're on the New Zealand dollar, Japanese yen to begin with. And this one actually is quite interesting, because if you see, the MACD crossed over here, and now this is the third candle. You've got 1, 2, 3. So because the price was below the EMA to begin with, it has until the end of this candle to get above price, but it does look, however, like it's going to close just below. So if that had been a green day, then it would have been an entry signal, but we will be locked out of it on the New Zealand dollar yen there. And we're getting a signal from the New Zealand dollar Swiss franc currency pair. It is a buy signal, so that's in favor of the New Zealand dollar. You see the zero line crossover happened yesterday, and now by the end of the second candle, we have got that buy entry signal there. We're not going to jump in just yet. We're going to record that pair there, and we'll see if we get any other signals, and then we'll come back at the end. On the New Zealand dollar, Canadian dollar here, this is the second candle that is ending positive. That one was just a touch negative there. Price was already above the EMA when the MACD crossed zero and closed over zero. So we don't have until the third candle for our entry. It's only when price is below, and then it's just climbed above for the first time. So no trade on this one. Great British Pound, Aussie dollar, no trade for us, has been coming down, and the MACD has as well. Still comfortably above the moving average though. Canadian dollar, Swiss franc has just had a zero line crossover on the MACD to the positive side. However, price still below the moving average, so it's got two candles to get above it over the next 2 days. If it does and closes above there, we will be in a buy trade. If not, locked out. On the euro New Zealand dollar pairing here, and we have just had a zero line crossover beneath on the MACD. Price is below the EMA, so we've got a sell trade here if we want it on the euro New Zealand dollar. That's two pairs then in favor of the New Zealand dollar that are competing at the moment. This is why we make a note instead of jumping straight in. So we'll come back to that one as we've just got a few more pairs to check. On the euro Swiss franc pairing here, no trade for us, but since we're here, we might as well decide which we're going to take. So both trades in favor of the New Zealand dollar. Which one do we want to go against, the euro or the Swiss francs? We don't want both trades. We don't want to just pile up our risk on the New Zealand dollar. And all our tiebreaker is going to be in these situations is what happened on the previous day. So in this previous day, we can see that the euro got stronger against the Swiss franc, which means that we can see the euro as being stronger overall than the Swiss franc. So therefore, we would prefer to trade the New Zealand dollar against the Swiss franc than we would against the euro. So we can eliminate the euro New Zealand dollar as a trade. And at the moment, we're just looking at the New Zealand dollar Swiss franc pair. But we've got just a couple left to check. Euro Aussie dollar, it's beneath zero on the MACD, but above the price. Definitely nothing available there. Aussie dollar against the New Zealand dollar. The Aussie dollar has been coming down quite a bit against it, but the MACD is above zero. No entry signal for us on that pairing. And that was the last one to look at. So now we know the only trade that we need to take is the New Zealand dollar against the Swiss franc. Again, we're going to ignore that euro New Zealand dollar one. So let's get the New Zealand dollar Swiss franc pairing back up. And there it is, you see, it's a buy signal. So now let's close this MACD and let's open our average true range. We've got $4,932.29. And again, it's going to be that 2% risk trade. It's just the one trade, there's no splits. And it's a 1 times ATR value for the stop loss and a 1.5 times ATR value for the take profit to hopefully try and get some more gains from it. That means our 1 times ATR value stop loss is right down here on the ATR, 56.8 pips. And you can see our risk calculated on screen now. So let's punch that volume in. And it's the buy trade. That's our trade there. Let's pull up that stop loss, which we know is going to be 568 points. And then our take profit is going to be 1.5 times this value right here, which is 852. So let's pop that in. And so we can see our take profit here right up there. It's sort of at the edge of a resistance level. So hopefully that procs over a few periods and comes back down. And you can see the stop loss there. So now we checked through all 21 of the currency pairs and we have managed to enter one trade. There's nothing else left for us to do tonight. We'll come back around about the same time tomorrow and we'll see how this trade is getting on and see if there's any new entries for us. Day 2, here we are back on the daily time frame with our trade pulled up the New Zealand dollar Swiss franc. It's a good movement in our way, first day, and it's 0.45%, was even more. Looks like it got about halfway there at its highest point and now dropped back a bit. We're still about a third of the way to the take profit, so that's going along pretty nicely for us. Even the swap paid us a little bit out there, so that is convenient. Nothing for us to do here, let it just crack on as is. And we're going to cycle through the other 20 currency pairs now, just to see if there's any new entries or anything interesting going on. Canadian dollar Swiss franc pairing, second candle above zero, price not able yet to get above. Next candle will be the last one, so the next 24 hours, if it gets above the EMA, then we have an entry, but if it doesn't, we are locked out of this move. Similarly for the Great British Pound, Japanese Yen, we're on the second candle here, so it would have to get price above the EMA for us to be able to have an entry signal by the end of tomorrow's candle. Otherwise, we are out of there. Pound against the Swiss franc. If we see a strong green day tomorrow, then we could get a nice identical signal of price crossing the EMA and the MACD zero line at the same point. As is though, doesn't look like we're going to get anything there. This was that Euro New Zealand dollar pair. This was the other currency pair yesterday that we had the choice between against the Swiss franc, and we did choose to go against the Swiss franc. Looks like they would be doing pretty similar right about now. The New Zealand dollar did just broadly get stronger against the currencies. Euro Australian dollar, we are seeing the end of the third histogram bar, and price has not been able to get past that moving average. Hasn't gone anywhere close to it, to be fair, so we are locked out of that sell trade. We need something new down the line. The Swiss franc Japanese yen pair, last 5 days, very rangy, can't make its mind up. Be interesting to see where that breaks to in the end. And we are actually now getting an entry signal to sell off the Australian dollar in favour of the New Zealand dollar. We're not going to take it because we don't want to overload our risk on the New Zealand dollar in case of a reversal. But you can see here the MACD is just about ready to close beneath zero. It's a really strong day for the New Zealand dollar. So that is a would-be sell trade. We'll have to watch out for how that ends up. But as I say, we're not going to enter it. We want to stick to that 2% risk on any given individual currency. And there is our trade. We're just back on the chart now. No extra entries for us as we saw there. The only extra one would have been the Aussie dollar, New Zealand dollar, but we are not taking that. So that means no new signals, which is absolutely fine. We don't want to recklessly jump into any without reason. We'll wait for the system to guide us as appropriate. Let's hope this New Zealand dollar can keep getting stronger, possibly trigger that take profit, get the bank rolling. We'll be back tomorrow, same time. Day 3 then, just after 11:30. I've got our New Zealand dollar Swiss franc trade pulled up here. Still going really nicely. Momentum continues in our favour. The price a little bit higher. Nothing for us to do with this one. It's not going to close below the EMA. The MACD isn't going to cross zero. Another day like this and it should proc our take profit there. If it wants to treat it as resistance and bounce off it, that's absolutely fine as long as we take our profit first. Again, now just going to flick through all our currency pairs and see if we've got any entries. New Zealand dollar against the Canadian dollar, still getting stronger for the NZD, but no signal for us. Pound continuing to weaken against the New Zealand dollar. Definitely not getting a signal there, but again, this trade looks like it would have been very nice to have been in on. Again here, the Great British Pound getting weaker still against the Aussie dollar. And there is a lot of downward momentum. That's going to cross that moving average soon. Pound yen pairing, price couldn't close above the EMA. If it had, that was going to be our last candle that we could get a buy trade in if it passed that price. It looked like it touched the EMA, but it's come back down. So no entry for us on the pound yen. Pound Swiss franc, it is closing above zero on the MACD, but price couldn't make it over the EMA, so we can't take that zero line crossover. The EMA is filtering out that signal. Euro against New Zealand dollar, this was our other trade. And today it wouldn't have done as well as our New Zealand dollar Swiss franc trade has. We gained quite a bit more, but this one has stayed about flat here. So currently looking like the better trade to be in the Swiss franc one. And the Aussie dollar, New Zealand dollar, surprisingly, the Aussie dollar getting quite a bit stronger against the New Zealand dollar. These currencies are battling it out. It has done a zero line crossover above zero, but it's still below the EMA prices. If we had been in that sell trade yesterday, it would have kicked us right out of it today, so a bit lucky there, saved by the Swiss franc. So that's it for all our currency pairs. No new trades today. We just keep it at this trade still going. Hopefully let's get that little bit more momentum It's about half, 2/3 of the way there now, somewhere in that range. We'll be back again tomorrow. Day 4, 11:23 p.m. and good news doth the chart bringeth. It has hit our take profit today. Let's bring it up. And there we see that is a very fortunate run. We caught it just as it crossed over the EMA at the same time, closing beyond on the MACD. It's a great trade. We managed to get 3 straight days, very lucky, right up there. And we've taken off 83 pips for it. We had a 2% stop loss at 1 times ATR risk value. And so because our take profit has triggered at our level of 1.5 times ATR, we have made 3% from that trade. Does make us feel like a fantastic trader, like we finally nailed it. That's still the only trade we had going though. There's nothing else open at the moment. So let's have a mosey on through our other charts and see if we've got any new signals. Great British Pound, New Zealand dollar. Again, the pound is weak against the New Zealand dollar, which seems to be trumping all currencies at the moment as we see the pound sell off. No signal. Pound yen, no signal. It has just crossed above the EMA, but it is the 4th histogram bar on the MACD, so we needed it yesterday to be able to take that trade. We are locked out of this one. Well, the Great British Pound Swiss franc, that is giving us a signal because price has just closed above the moving average, and this is only the 2nd histogram bar to close above 0 on the MACD. So we've got at least one entry signal. We're just going to make a note of that one for now. We're not going to dive straight in, but that is the pound Swiss franc. Euro against the New Zealand dollar. We had the option to take this trade and it does continue against the euro. So we'd be getting pretty close to the take profit if we hadn't taken it already today. So we know that our trade with the Swiss franc was successful. There's a good chance this euro one would have been as well. The Swiss franc yen, the rangiest of all the pairs this last week and continues to be so. Alternate days, red, green, back and forth. A lot of uncertainty on this pair. And for the Australian dollar against the New Zealand dollar, we'd need that Aussie dollar to get all the way up with price above the EMA by the end of the 3rd histogram bar tomorrow for us to be able to get that entry. Seems pretty unlikely at the moment. Still though, it hasn't moved far above the 0 line, so a couple more red days we could see the cross come underneath 0, and that could potentially be a pretty nice entry for us. Back on the Great British Pound Swiss franc pairing then, this is our only entry signal we're getting from the 21 currency pairs. As our previous trade, the New Zealand dollar Swiss franc pairing has now closed. That means that we can take this signal. We wouldn't have wanted to load up if this entry had meant taking a second trade on the Swiss franc, but now we'll only have one open on it. So let's pull up our average true range. So you can see the ATR 78.4 pips as its current reading. Let's get into our buy trade then in favor of the pound. So we can set our stop loss here at 784 points. And the take profit will go at 1176 points. And there we go, you see the take profit right up at this level, near the resistance, but not past it, which is quite good to see. And then the stop loss pretty tight down here. There we go then, and that is our trade, 1 times ATR to the stop loss, 1.5 to the take profit. Let's hope we can get another winner. We'll check back in on this trade and for any more entries tomorrow. Alright, day 5, and we are keeping it exactly equal to 100 as we check out our trade here. It's carried on its upward trend in our favor, so that is very nice. At the moment, $22 in profit, still quite a ways to go, but at least we are out of the gates and running in the right direction. Let's just go through those other 20 minor pairs and see what else is happening. New Zealand dollar still going to get stronger. I wonder if this is going to be a pattern for all these NZD pairs that we see. Yeah, same here on the Swiss franc. Would have been nice to have a bit of this trade still open. You can see this was our trade. We took profit up here, but another really strong green day for New Zealand dollar. Hopefully see some red days on the Euro Canadian dollar. If we can get people selling off the Euro, get that MACD below 0, potential signal there. Aussie dollar strengthening against the Euro. We're seeing that sell-off happen there, and the MACD continues to trundle below 0. And the Swiss franc Japanese yen, this is one of the most interesting pairs, even though we're not really near a signal. Well, we are in a way, but the last 7-8 days, this has gone red-green up and down the entire time. Incredibly indecisive chart, but at some point it's going to break. Hopefully it comes downwards so we actually get the crossover signal. There is potential. Well, the Aussie dollar today actually getting the better of the New Zealand dollar. These two are the powerhouses at the moment. So no new signals for us today to finish off the week. But as we said, our trade is still looking pretty nice here. The Great British Pound picking up where the New Zealand dollar left off. The Swiss franc still looking pretty weak. Sadly, all these currencies shut down for the weekend. We will be back on the 6th to check on these trades again. That'll be a Monday. So looking forward to checking in then. Let's have a look at this week's trades in the journal. Here we are in the journal. So far, so good. 5 days in, Monday to Friday. And we've had one winning trade already. That really sharp run up on the New Zealand dollar Swiss franc pairing. Very nice trade for us. Managed to catch that 1.5 times ATR take profit. Anyone trading multiple pairs on the New Zealand dollar and long on all of them should be getting a lot of money apart from against the Aussie dollar. But those two are absolutely leading the pack the last couple of weeks. Still though, we've seen the Swiss franc weaken in both of our trades, as when we left this one, we took profit here automatically, and then that evening we opened up this trade with the pound against the Swiss franc. We wouldn't have been able to have both of them open at the same time, so it was a bit of a change of the battens there. Very nice. And yeah, it's picked it up well and going in our favour still. Nothing really to complain about. So far, so good. 3% up in the bank. And so we look forward to carrying it on.